One tale involves a Sassanid queen who allegedly threw a tantrum when her cherries were served above room temperature. The cook, according to legend, ran to the yakchal barefoot and returned with crushed ice in his turban. Whether the story's true or just kitchen gossip stretched by time, no one knows. But it tells you what mattered: temperature, presentation, control. You walk along one of the garden's side paths lined with trimmed hedges and low fountains. Small clay containers, sealed and labeled, rest in the shade. These, the gardener tells you, contain rose syrup. We bury them overnight. By morning, they're as cold as the well. She pops one open and lets you taste. It's thick and sweet, with that telltale chill. You shudder with pleasure and mentally add clay pot refrigerator to your list of ancient genius moves. Nearby, a group of children are playing by one of the water channels. One of them tosses in a fig wrapped in cloth. 10 minutes, she says. Then it's ours. They're not wrong. Running water cools better than standing. You make a note. Ancient Persians knew not just how to store cold, but how to time it. There's a kind of rhythm here in the garden. Everything is timed around coolness. Early harvesting, midday retreats to the cellar, evening gatherings with chilled fruit and sherbet. Even prayer times double as cooling intermissions. When the call echoes over the walls and the sun begins its daily roast, people pause, not just to pray, but to recover in shade, sip something frozen, and reset. You lie down near a fig tree. The canopy casts speckled light onto your face. Someone hands you another bowl, this one filled with falude, made from tamarind syrup and frozen in thin layers between polished stones overnight. You take a bite. It crackles like snowflakes. A few feet away, someone laughs about a failed attempt to make a cherry sorbet with no sugar. Tasted like betrayal, they joke. Another boasts about a blend of cucumber, mint, and snow, a combination used to settle upset stomachs and impress nosy in-laws. You drift in and out of the conversation, head resting on your arm. The garden hums around you, bees hover, qanat water flows, and every now and then a plate clinks softly against stone. Nothing is rushed here. Nothing is loud. It's a palace of patience, where ice and silence go hand in hand. And as you feel the last bite of sorbet melt slowly in your mouth, you realize this garden isn't just decorative. It's a machine. A slow, green, fragrant, sun-defying machine built for one sacred task: keeping things cold long enough for people to taste joy. By now, you've learned to expect the impossible from ancient Persia. Snow in the desert, sorbet in the palace, and underground rivers cooler than bottled spring water. But nothing quite prepares you for the archive. It isn't a dusty library in the modern sense. It's more like a memory palace, part temple, part storeroom, filled with scrolls, tablets, and, of all things, recipe stones. Yes, actual slabs of clay and soapstone carved with instructions not for battle or taxes, but for food. Cold food, iced food. You're led inside by a woman whose hands are ink-stained and confident. She's the custodian here, and she greets you with a knowing smirk, like she's seen 100 curious wanderers just like you, and knows you're about to leave with your worldview rearranged like spice jars after a sandstorm. The first tablet she shows you is smooth and rectangular, its cuneiform script still sharp despite the centuries. She traces a finger over a line and translates slowly. Crush berries, mix with snow, serve before it weeps. You blink. Did she just say weeps? Poetic license, she shrugs. The ancient word meant melts, but it also implied the loss of something beautiful. You sit down cross-legged as she brings out more. Some are in Old Persian, others in Pahlavi. One is Greek, possibly brought by a scholar after Alexander's conquest. They all speak to a shared obsession, keeping things cold, not just for royalty, but for ceremony, health, diplomacy, even medicine. Historians still argue whether Persian physicians were the first to prescribe cold desserts for fevers. Some records suggest iced rose water was used to reduce body heat and balance what the ancients called excess bile. Others hint at ice used in surgical recovery, held against the skin in cloth bundles to dull pain and reduce swelling. Primitive ice packs, essentially. You read aloud one line scratched into faded clay. Let the sick drink the cooled nectar of plum, taken under a shaded arch, once the morning sun has passed its peak. If that's not the ancient equivalent of medical spa advice, what is? The custodian nods. We forget how intertwined food, health, and architecture once were. Another scroll details a diplomatic banquet from the reign of Khosrow I, where ambassadors from India and Byzantium were served chilled date custard in silver cups. Apparently the Byzantines tried to replicate it back home. They failed, she adds, because they didn't understand the air shafts. This archive doesn't just preserve recipes. It holds fragments of weather records, when snow fell earliest, which years the qanats froze unexpectedly, and how many donkeys were needed to haul mountain ice to the capital. One answer, 23, but 2 were lazy. A note, not a statistic. You discover a set of wooden slats tied with twine, portable records, early checklists of what to bring for summer feasts, apricots, yogurt, rose syrup, pickled walnuts, and always, always ice. But here's a strange one. Carved into an unusually thin slab is a list of what not to serve chilled. According to this long-dead food theorist, pears should never be iced. They lose their fragrance and offend the humors. You quietly disagree, but you're not here to pick a fight with a 500-year-old chef. Further in, you find letters, real correspondence between estate managers and royal kitchens. One complains that last year's snow delivery was late, causing the peach sorbet to be served at the temperature of bath water. Another boasts of a successful experiment using glazed ceramic bowls to keep frozen milk colder longer. There's even a short poem inked in flowing script on silk. In the heat of battle, I think not of victory, but of saffron ice upon my tongue, a prize the sun cannot steal. You imagine a soldier, armor rusting in the shade, dreaming of dessert. That's devotion. The custodian leads you to a final alcove, small, quiet, lit by a single shaft of dusty light. There, on a carved pedestal, sits the strangest object yet, a cube of polished black stone, about the size of a melon, with tiny inscriptions spiraling around its surface. We call this the cold heart, she says. It's not literal, of course. It's a mnemonic device, each spiral line a recipe, each corner a ritual. Some believe it was held in cold rooms and consulted during summer solstice feasts. Others claim it belonged to a royal food priest, a kind of proto-chef whose job it was to guard the sacred harmony between temperature, season, and appetite. You touch it. It's cool. No, seriously, it's cool to the touch. In the middle of this room, with no visible water source or airflow trick, you pull your hand back. The custodian laughs. Porous stone, she explains. It breathes, and yes, it absorbs coolness overnight. You stare at the object, humbled. It's just a rock, and yet it holds within it the quiet desperation of every summer, every clamor for a breeze, every attempt to trap the cold and make it stay. Before you leave, she hands you a small scroll. A copy, she says, from a servant's diary. You open it, scanning the lines. Today the master refused his melon, said it was too warm. Tomorrow I will bury it deeper. Perhaps the earth knows better than I do. You nod, gently folding it away. Because after everything you've seen, from snow domes to dessert poems, you're beginning to suspect that, yes, the earth really does know better. Afternoon again, the sun has taken full control of the sky. No clouds, no mercy, just that slow, pressing heat that makes even lizards think twice before moving. But you, clever traveler, know exactly where to go. The caravanserai on the edge of town. From the outside, it's an unassuming structure. Low walls, an arched entrance, dust clinging to its sides like it belongs there. But once you step inside, the air changes. Not dramatically, just enough, a whisper of relief. Shade woven into stone. The central courtyard is quiet. No shouting merchants here. No carts squeaking past. Just a few travelers resting under awnings, their camels exhaling slowly, like they're grateful for the pause. In the corner, there's a shaded kiosk, a modest clay stand with no signage, no fanfare. You approach, already sensing what it is. The vendor, an older man with a beard the color of almond bark, greets you with a nod and gestures to a wide, shallow basin at the center of his setup. It's packed with snow, not ice. Snow. You blink. The sun is relentless today, and yet here it is, fluffy, white, melting only at the edges. You ask how it got here. He smiles. We keep it beneath, in the pit, 3 meters down, stone-lined, fed by the Kanat. You nod like you understand. You don't fully, but your respect grows exponentially. He scoops some snow into a clay cup, pours over it a deep red syrup, pomegranate, sharp and sweet, then adds a drizzle of something golden. Honey infused with saffron. You take the cup. First taste, fireworks, subtle ones, the kind you only see from very far away. It's cold, but not brain freeze cold. Sweet, but not syrupy. There's texture, snow crystals,